welcome everybody to our Duologue episode 8. My name is Desi, this is Chris.
Yeah, hi there everyone.
Today's topic, where do we get news or information from? Because it's not the BBC these days.
Well, there is some things, but we're quite selective about where we source information from. Very often I get asked by people, where do you get this stuff from? Where do you get this information from? Because I can't hear it. I don't hear it on the normal stuff. Where do you get it? And I quite often say, well, you want to check out this person, you want to check out that person, and just go subscribe to their channels, and you get videos sent through and they post new ones. So that makes a lot of sense. And I've got a lot of people that I follow, but I don't look at all their stuff all of the time. And what you find is that these people are posting perhaps once a week, and then other people are taking their content, chopping it up and saying it's the same thing. So you find yourself going, oh, I've heard this before somewhere. And there are channels like that. So because a lot of these people have these other people on as guests, and then they publish that, and then other people go on and they take that video and they cut it up. Well, you can normally tell because they box it in so that they can control what you're seeing and it's not giving the game away. I prepared a list, and this is quite a long list, but I'll talk you through, and we can put this list up. We'll put in the notes. Anyway, the first one is a guy called Sean Fu. And Sean Fu, he posts almost every day. He might go away, in which case he doesn't post that day, but he's quite prolific. He posts current news, current affairs. So he posted today, for example, on what's going on in the States with tariffs today and how they're keeping the tariff on with China, and this affects the markets. So it's worth keeping abreast of it, and he publishes most days. It's only about 10 minutes, so you can bung it on, get a flavour of what's going on, and then go on to the next one. But he's quite good. He talks about a wide range of topics. He's a bit of a catch-all, but if you want to know what's going on with the American stuff at the moment, not what the mainstream media puts out, but what alternative media puts out, then he's a good guy to look at. It's quite informative. The next one, and you know this one, is Redacted. They generally broadcast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They cover all the stuff that the mainstream doesn't cover, really. So they probably do about 5 or 6 stories a night. It's stuff that won't make the news because it's not so. People don't want you to hear some of this stuff. So you could call it conspiracy theory, but most of the stuff is now conspiracy fact. They're in danger of going out of business because it's all true. The next one is Sebastian Sass. He's a Romanian guy, speaks incredibly good English, and he lives in London. His stuff is all on Europe. He's quite funny. His stories, a lot of them come from Ukraine, Pravda or something anyway, but the source of democracy, he says, a beacon of democracy. He's got over 120,000 viewers now. He hasn't been doing it that long. He's been doing it since the war, really, but he was sick and tired of them reporting on the war and just reporting rubbish. And so he started to put his own slant on it. And he'll tell you what they're saying in the paper, and he'll tell you what's really happening. Not what's really going on, as opposed to what Zelensky's saying or whatever, and then he'll say why they're doing it, the European propaganda machine, what they really want. He does 2 broadcasts most days, video 1 and video 2, but one's that comes out about 5, another about 7. But it's good. It's good, solid stuff, and he backs it all up with evidence. He's a good guy. Now, the next one, Liberty and Finance. Now, Liberty and Finance, I watch them because they get some good guests on. If you want to hear from Andy Sheckman, who runs the Gold and Silver Company, they get him on once a week, and he gives an update on what the gold and silver markets are. Liberty and Finance are quite good. They used to be like one of these stations that used to do prepping, but they morphed into Liberty and Finance. They're worth checking out because they get some good guests on, people who are basically saying that Liberty is going And they also get people on talking about how you can protect yourself, how you can protect your family by buying sound money. Sound money being gold and silver. They don't talk so much about Bitcoin because they're into gold and silver themselves. It's a good all-round station for news about finance and what the gold and silver markets are up to. Next one is Live from the Vault. A week. It's mainly gold. Talking about the difference between the paper gold and silver markets and the real stock and silver markets. They have a guy on there every week. He lives in London. He's working from London, a real gold specialist. Some of the stuff he comes up with, I don't know what he's talking about because it's so in detail about the market, and he's absolutely a person who understands the market. He's giving a very good overview of where he thinks the market's going. He puts on charts as well and what market we're in and how and gold and silver ratios. And he's also talked about miners, gold miners, silver miners, and whether it's good buy and stuff like that. So a real in-depth stuff, and they get some good guests on as well. So that's another one. Chart Champions, trading group of people. There's loads of trading people out there, but the guy that runs Chart Champions has put a collection of people together, coaches and himself, Daniel. If you are paying, you're going to get notified about things that are happening right now and get the heads up. He also gives that same information, but it comes out later on YouTube and not all of it. So if you're listening to him, you've got to bear in mind that he's talking about history, really, but like not long history, but in the markets it's long, like maybe 6 hours or something like that. Whereas what he's talking about happened. So if you think, oh no, he told them, he said, they're not a signals group, so they're not talking about. They're not trying to advise people of what they should be doing, like signals people. Like in his paid for group, he'll be saying, "Yeah, I think the market's going to go up in the next 2 hours," and probably it will. Not for sure, but probably you've got to make your own decisions. But if you get that information on a video 6 hours later, so it's already too late. But they're very good. They're worth subscribing to if you join them. Which I have done in the past. They do some great training, like what to look out for. If you're into technical analysis, they're very good. And then there's a few here which I'm going to run through fairly quickly. Ivan on Tech, Satoshi Stacker, and Tyler S. They're all basically crypto analysts, but bear in mind that no one knows what's going on.
They're very funny. They're just entertainers.
Like
comedy show.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they are really. Ivan on Tech from Norway or somewhere like that, and he's now living somewhere else. But he's quite funny, and his shows are quite humorous, and they're quite informative. But it's all about geopolitical stuff and what's going on in the background, not actually what's going on the charts. Although there is a little bit of that, but nothing to be too serious about. Satoshi Stacker, he's running a show which is giving people a simple to digest way of analysing the markets. So he's got his orange lines on the, then if it goes to here, it's going to go up. If it goes below this, it's that kind of stuff. But make your own mind up because there's no guarantees anyway. He gives you some ideas and he's giving you maybe some insight into what the market's going to be doing, but nothing too serious. You've just got to make your own mind up. And then the next one is Tyler S. Tyler S is my favourite because he's about 30. He doesn't really trade per se, except for swing trades. So he puts in, like when Bitcoin was down at 20,000, he's got loads in at 20,000. Well, 20,000 it might have gone to 10, but so at 20,000 he put on a load, and it's gone up and it's progressively up, and we're now at 93 or something. It could have gone down to 10, so he would have put a trade in, and he probably would have ridden that out and waited for it to go up. But it's lower risk. He's looking at the highest probability trades. So now he's got trades in at 20,000, and it's high, so he's made loads of money. So yeah, you've just got to take each of these as where they are because they're quite amusing. They're a bit of enjoyment, really. And the next guy, though, he isn't, and that's Simon Dixon. Simon Dixon's very, very serious, and he looks at geopolitical issues. He looks at Bitcoin and sound money, as he calls it. He's telling you about the things that are happening in the world, why they're happening, who's behind it, what's really going on financially, and then how you can protect yourself in the future and not get caught out and have all your money taken off you. He's a good guy. I've known Simon since 2009. I went to his book launch in London, which was the first book written with Bitcoin in it. So he was talking about Bitcoin, and he was at the first Bitcoin conference where there was 35 people, and it was just, what are these idiots talking about type of thing. But he's stuck with it the whole way through, and he's like probably a billionaire already. Yeah, lives in the Isle of Man in a massive house and enjoys life. But he doesn't want people to be robbed. And the reason he's running this show is because he got out of being a trader in London in 2004, 2002, or maybe even last century. But he got out of it because he saw it was a Ponzi scheme. And he saw that people were going to have all their money taken off them. They're going to have worked all their life, and then they're going to end up with nothing. He wanted to warn people because he knew this, what's happening now is coming. He knew it. For me, he's a good guy. He's very, very bright, and he's got most of this stuff on the nail, on the money. So anyway, the next guy's Andy Sheckman. He runs a silver and gold company. He's been running it for 40 years. Never had a complaint registered against his name. He knows the industry inside out. He took over the business from his dad. His family have been in this business, silver business and gold business, for years, and he's just got some very sound information about gold and silver, and he knows what he's talking about. So I would say, if you're into silver or gold or precious metals, you should look up Andy Sheckman and subscribe. He's got a channel of his own now. He normally goes on other people's channels, but he's got his own channel now. So it's worth subscribing to and following. The next guy is a guy called Peter Schiff. Now, if you're in gold, or you will know Peter Schiff. He's a completely anti-Bitcoin guy. He thinks it's going to go to zero. But as far as gold's concerned, he knows what he's talking about. He's made a fortune. He's got the gold market is slightly changing now, because what they're saying is that if you've got gold, the big problem is how do you take it anywhere? It's too big, and there's restrictions on where you can take it. Whereas Bitcoin, you just send it somewhere and that's it. It's all over. It's on the electronic. So they're saying Bitcoin is gold 2, and gold is obviously gold 1. But the thing is that with gold, you can now register your gold, literally deposit it somewhere in one of these Brinks gold depositories, and then you can let someone have that gold, and then what they do is they credit you with that gold, and then you can use gold electronically to pay for things. So you don't have to have the gold with you, but you've got to trust these people who aren't going to run off with your money. So it's still a counterparty risk, which is why everyone's trying to get away from counterparty risk. And of course, with Bitcoin, if you self custody it, then you've basically got the keys for it, and no one can take it away from you unless you volunteer the keys or you give it away. So it's under your control ultimately. David Lynn is the next one. He works for one of these financial FX something or other, I think it is. But anyway, David Lynn, he's a young guy, and he asks good questions and that, but he's not the specialist himself. He gets the guests on who are specialists, and he asks questions. David Lynn is a good guy because he gets some good shows. Another person like Simon Dixon is a lady called Whitney Webb. She's an analytical journalist. The type of information she knows is unbelievable. She's based in Chile. She's out of the system. And she promotes people getting out of the system, like get your own water supply, get your own food supply, get everything yourself. And she knows everything about what happened with Epstein, how it was all linked with the PayPal founders like Peter Thiel, who's involved with which group and what group, all about Elon Musk, and he isn't what you think he is. He's got a whole load of other stuff going on, and all the connections, an absolute encyclopedia of connections and links that are basically turning the world. And she knows all this stuff, so she's really worth getting. She's really worth connecting up, getting to subscribe to her channel, because she knows what she's talking about. The next lady is Lynn Alden. She's who's up to date with the market, and she's one of the people that was into Bitcoin back in 2017 when all the financial people were telling us it was mumbo jumbo and don't touch it with a barge pole, it's for people who are drug dealers and yeah. But the only drug dealers are the real banks. This is the irony. We trust those implicitly, and yet they're the ones linked to all the people traffickers, the drug traffickers, the money launderers. They're all the launderers, and they're accusing Bitcoin because they're scared. The next one is Lawrence Leopard. He's written a book. I think he's probably about 56, 60. Was a trader years ago, but now he's sold the farm, as it were, for Bitcoin. And he's big advocate and thinks that it's going to be big things come the end of this year for Bitcoin. Obviously, that will date because it will be next year soon enough. But he thinks Bitcoin's probably going to go to $1 million or $2 million in the next 5 years. And a real sound money advocate. Rafi Barber, he's a guy he's reporting from there, which was interesting over the months as all that nonsense over there was going on. He's a real silver guy. He buys gold, but he's really into silver and silver miners. And he's got a good view of the market. And he's advocating that over the next 4 to 6 months, the dollar is going to collapse. And he calls it the end game for this Ponzi scheme. He's not on many shows, but the shows he's on are worth listening to. So just get his name, put it in Rafi Barber, and have a look and see what type of information he's doing. It's quite technical, but it's also quite normal news type of thing. The next guy is Alistair McLeod. He's an English guy. He used to be a bank manager and all the whole history of all this sort of stuff. But he's basically saying that most people say that gold's going up, and his position is gold's not going up, the dollar's going down. Gold would have bought you something like 2,000 years ago, and today you can buy the same thing with the same amount of gold. Yeah, there's obviously inflation because gold goes up 2% per year probably, but your ounce of gold will buy you the same as it did in 1913. Same amount of thing. You go whatever it took to buy a car then you could buy the same amount with your same gold today. It's inflation proof. And he talks about gold in this basis, and his view is that if you want his view, then silver's the best buy of the century. Like it's right now 100 silver ounces to 1 of gold. That so rarely happens, and it will revert back to 30 to 1 or 15 to 1 at some point because it's unsustainable at these levels. So this is the angle Alistair comes out, and he promotes sound money. He said, if you haven't got any gold or you haven't got any silver, then you're vulnerable because all this funny money, fiat, is anyway, not
the end game.
Yeah. Another one we'll talk about the end game. James Rickards. This is an interesting guy. He's very, very good at speaking. He used to work for the CIA. He used to work for the government in America. He used to work for a high level as an advisor of what they should be doing with that money. So, good guy. And he talks about inflation. He talks about bond yields and all this kind of stuff. But he clearly knows his stuff, and he's been around. He's around in the 70s. He was around in the 80s. He's seen it all. A guy that, if you want to know about the backlog and about the history and what happened in the 80s and the 70s with the inflation in the 70s and how that affected the markets in the 80s and how we're in the same place now, and even what happened in the big depression back in the 1920s and what's going on in the markets and how that correlates almost entirely with where we are today, then this team, he's quite good. And I like the way he talks. He's very, very quick, but he's good. He's funny too. So that's James Rickards. Samson Mao. Now this guy is a massive, massive Bitcoin bull. Massive. He says Well, if Bitcoin goes to 250,000, what position Bitcoin is in at 250,000? He said, what's it stopping it coming to 500,000? And if it goes to 500,000, you already have everything in place for it to go to 1 million. So what's stopping it? And if it goes to 1 million, what's stopping it go to 5? All of this money that's got to go into Bitcoin to make it secure, then what's stopping it going in next week or the week after? But an interesting guy, what he does for a business is he goes into countries and big businesses and helps them set up a getting into Bitcoin strategy, a Bitcoin adoption strategy, or a national reserve, sovereign reserve for someone like, if France are interested, like France to be in getting to Bitcoin. So how do they do it? His company does that. So he's on a big scale promoting Bitcoin, because the faster he succeeds, the faster everybody in Bitcoin succeeds. And it's a sound money. And then lastly but not least, there's the BBC. What do I get from them? Well, I get stuff about the weather, the royal family, and traffic reports, and the sport. That's if I want to hear how such and such, what such and such happened in tennis or that, I generally go to the BBC because they tend to report that stuff quite well. And because there's no special interest other than what's the result, they tend to be honest about that.
Very accurate. Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very independent.
Yeah, very independent. So you can't get that from Samson Mao. He doesn't follow tennis. But most of this is either about what's really going. Put yourself in a position of not being shafted when the governments decide to print loads of money and debase our currencies. This is basically about how to put yourself in a better spot so that you don't catch a cold when they decide to pass it on.
In the previous episode, which I'm going to put a link here, in the previous episode, we were talking about retirement and savings and how to protect ourselves from the future collapse and endgame. So this is where Chris has been learning from all these sources. It will be interesting to hear what you think about them, if you have seen any of those channels before, because these are all on YouTube. Yeah, it will be interesting to see and to hear your opinion about these people. And obviously, if you prefer the BBC, these people might be too difficult thing to digest.
I mean, the thing is, right, is that I don't just take what these people are saying and say, yeah, that's the gospel. I cross-check it with the other sites and just see what they're also saying. And then I check it with geopolitical people and say, is that likely to cause this event, which is going to make these things happen? So they're all cross-fertilized. They're not just taken as read because I listen to the BBC. Like for example, I listen to the BBC. Where can you cross-fertilize that information? You can't. You've got to accept it as that's what it is, or you don't. That's your choice. I'm not telling you what to do. But with these, they all cross-fertilize each other. And where they're different, then you can be skeptical. But where they're the same, you think to yourself, okay, that's logical. And I'm a logician. I'm logical. Well, that stacks up because I can see that. And if that happens, then for sure this is going to happen. But what's in it for them if this happens? What are they trying to spread as a rumor to become a fact, so that something happens, so that they benefit?
Thank you for watching, guys. And if you found this episode useful, do please hit the subscribe button. Also the bell, because we promise to record these on Tuesdays and Fridays, but they sometimes come up live on a different day. But if you have the bell clicked, it will notify you that we've got another one coming, and then you can watch the next one, which we don't know what it will be, but we'll find out when you come and watch again, and Belle will tell you we've done it.
Might be about health. Never know.
It might be about health. We don't know.
Anyway, we'll see, because whatever we talk about in the week, we generally, this has been prompted by something. This week, it wasn't like we had this all planned. Something came up, and someone asked me to put this in. Just I might as well. Let's do a video on it. Then I can just do it for everyone.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Cheers for now.